Welcome back. This is ADWCTA, and we are doing the Grinning Goats Rise of Shadows preview for Arena. We're valuing all the cards, and we're in neutrals. These are the relevant neutrals. We just went over the top 9 neutrals, which are your premiums, your super premiums, and your, oh, I'm still really happy to have it in my deck. Now we're getting to below a 120. 120 is the average card in your deck. Below a 120, I think I'm going to go all the way down to like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to dip below 90. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go to like 90. So 100 is the average card that Blizzard prints. So 90 is already like 10% off that. You're like not happy. Even at 20% above that, you're not too happy because you get to select one of 3 cards each time, right? And Blizzard already discounts all the bad cards by 50% offering rate by putting it in bucket 7. So your average card in your deck and the average card in your opponent's deck is going to be around a 120. So all of these cards, you're not really happy to have them in your deck, but you're going to have to make some of these choices. So we're gonna see how they interact to the extent that any of these are special and things we haven't seen before. We'll start off from the top, going down still. Flightmaster 117. Flightmaster is a 3 mana 3/2. 3 mana 3/4. Battlecry, summon a 2/2 Gryphon for each player. 2/2 Gryphons are just 2/2s. It's fine. It's basically just a 3/4. If you have the board, right, you can get a good trade first, so that's good. But if it's just like let's say your opponent plays a Raptor, you play a Raptor, your opponent plays a 3-drop, you play a Flight Master. Well, your Raptors are traded. Now your opponent will get to kill your Flight Master first, and so they need like some kind of taunt or whatever, and then their 3/1 will live. So that's not good for you. But then they still need a taunt. On the other hand, if you do have the board, like if you play like a 2/3, your opponent plays a 2/3, now you play a Flight Master, you throw your 2/3 into the 2/2, now you have a 2/1, a 2/2, and a 3/4, and your opponent just has a silly Raptor, right? So it just depends on who has the board right now. It does fit into the whole theme of like you kind of want to be on the board in this whole expansion. So just wanted to run you guys through a little bit of the considerations to use before playing this card. It's a pretty complicated card to actually math out, but value-wise, it's just like a 3/4. But it's going to make for interesting gameplay. Okay, next one. I wish this were higher, but it's not, and I don't know if Blizzard's going to rate it higher or not. It's an Evil Cable Rat. And it is a 2 mana 1/1 Battlecry. Add a lackey to your hand. Lackeys, as we know, I'm not going to show these on the screen for people who are watching, but lackeys are 1 mana 1/1s with Battlecries that do like significant stuff. Like their Battlecries are worth like 2 mana, 1.5 mana. So one is like discover a spell. One is like summon a random 2-cost minion. One is like evolve one of your minions to something of 1 mana higher. I don't know. There's some other ones. There's 5 of them altogether. But they're one is +1 attack and rush. Like give one of your minions +1 attack and rush. And one deals 2 damage. Right. That's the big one. The good one is the best one is probably the one that deals 2 damage. But yeah, but for this guy, if you get the one that evolves, you can immediately evolve this guy, which is a pretty good target, right? Then you get a 1/1 and a 3-cost minion. So yeah, so he's pretty functional as a 3-drop. I think the meta is going to go too fast that if you just use him as a 2-drop, then you better have a way pretty soon, like in the next turn or two, to use that 1 mana card, because otherwise you're going to be too low in tempo. You're going to lose the board. But this is a pretty well valued by Blizzard, well balanced version of this card. One thing I do like about the designs of all the lackey cards in general, there's going to be these cards for a few of the classes as well, is that any card with a lackey, it lets you bank mana. Like it lets you bank tempo, because all the lackeys are 1 to 2 mana over tempoed. So when you play evil, so if you're like overextended on the board or whatever, and you don't want to commit, not only does this like get you another card, but the card is going to get you tempo so that you can make sure you get back onto the board really quickly after you get wiped. I really like this kind of design. I think it opens up elements in the game, especially in Arena. So this is one of my favorite cards in the entire set in terms of the design. Now, the bad part about this design is that lackeys do everything, right? And you have no idea what lackey you're going to get. So it's all random. But I've kind of given up on this whole like random is bad thing for this set, because between the misbucketings and the like fact that this entire set, Rise of Shadows, is just pretty heavy on RNG, it's gonna be pretty RNG anyway. Like, I don't know. It'll spice it up at least. Okay. Next, Portal Keeper. 4 mana, 5/2, Battlecry. Shuffle 3 portals into your deck. When drawn, summon a 2/2 demon with Rush. So you summon 3 portals into your deck instead of 3 4/4s, which is what we're used to seeing. And so instead of getting a 4/4, you get a 2/2 with Rush. That's all pretty good. 4 mana for a 5/2 should be 3 mana for a 5/2, so you are paying 1 mana for it, which is why it's not absolutely insane. If you remember the I forget what the card is actually called, but it's the rogue card that's a 4/4. I'm gonna switch over, see if it's here. Faldori Strider, right? This is the rogue card that's a 4 mana 4/4. Battlecry, shuffle 3 ambushes into your deck. When drawn, summon a 4/4 spider. That's insane. That card is 143. This card's only a 113. So it's below average for what you have in your hand because you're paying more for it. Right? 5 plus 2 is 7 stats, 4/4 is 8 stats, and you're getting less stuff too. You'd rather have a 4/4 than a 2/2 with Rush. A 2/2 with Rush is worth like, I don't know, 2 mana, maybe. But a 4/4 is worth like 3.5 mana. So yeah, it's overall just a pretty balanced card. It will up the RNG a lot in the arena because it's pickable. I don't know if it's memey enough that people will overpick it and then it becomes a never pick for good arena players, but you should try to stay away from it unless it's underbucketed anyway, because a lot of its power really is, like, you're paying 1 extra mana for this body. So the rest of it is just RNG of when you draw these 2/2 demons with Rush. So, it'll make things interesting, but in an RNG way. Okay. That's Portal Keeper. I'm going to skip over the Burly Shovel Fist for now and go to Portal Overfiend, which is 109. Basically the same score. It's another portal card. You're also shuffling 3 portals into your deck. This one's a 6 mana 5/6. So again, for 6 mana, you should get 2 more stats than this. You don't get it. Instead, you're shuffling stuff into your deck. Portal Keeper, for 4 mana, you should be getting 2 more stats than a 5/2, but you're shuffling portals into your deck instead. Nothing to really write home about for either of those cards. They're just kind of normal. Now we go to Burly Shovel Fist. Burly Shovel Fist is a 9 mana 9/9 rush. Apparently, it was widely regarded by the community to be one of the best neutral cards. Definitely one of the best common neutral cards in this set. All those people are wrong. I can say that with a lot of confidence. I don't know why they thought this was the best card, because we've seen a card very similar to it, right? Charged Devilsaur, which was 8 mana, 7/7 rush. And that card was good, but it wasn't great. It was just a good neutral card. Like, I think we have it rated at like a 120 or like a little bit below a 120. I'm going to explain. I think what people saw is that, oh, you add 1 mana and you add a 2/2 +2/+2 for 1 mana. That's insane. Imagine if you had a Raptor and then you had a 3 mana card and it was a 5/4. That would be insane. Fair. And now imagine if it had like an extra thing, right? Like, it's not just 2/2 of regular stats, they're 2/2 of rush stats. Oh my god. Okay. So that thinking is wrong when applied to Burly Shovel Fist, because going from 2 mana to 3 mana and going from 8 mana to 9 mana is hugely different. When you're at the 8 to 9 mana times, there's a lot of chances that if you have a 9 mana card in your hand, you just have no options to play stuff on turn 8, or you can't even play anything at all, right? Like, maybe you're forced to just play whatever cards you have. And remember, you win the game by making decisions. So if having a 9 mana card in your hand on turn 8 eliminates one of your decisions, and you're playing out enough cards, and remember the meta's a little faster, you're playing out enough cards that you don't have choices on turn 8, you just have to play what you got. That makes that 9 mana card in your hand responsible for you losing the ability to be a good player. It's really bad when you lose the ability to be a good player, assuming you're a good player. So that's very bad. Second, also an important point is that you can't use your hero power at 9 mana ever. So you just fully block out your hero power, even if it's past turn 9. And then third, going from 7 attack to 9 attack is really not that big of a difference. Especially because we just went over how like all the big cards are no longer like as heavy in terms of the health. Like the amount of times when 7 to 9 damage is going to matter is so low when it comes to hitting stuff on the board, which is mostly what you're going to be using it for, and the only thing you can use it for in the first turn you play it, right? It's very low, as opposed to my hypothetical example with Raptor turning into a 5/4. That 3 to 5 jump is pretty huge. That's like plus 66% attack. Here, this is like, I don't know. It's not even about the percentage. It's more about you don't have targets that's going to use your attack. So yeah, the plus 2 health is important. You are spending an extra mana, but overall, adding +2/+2 onto a card to make it go from 8 mana to 9 mana is a downgrade. Not an upgrade. Not even like about worth the same amount. It's just a downgrade. So Burly Shovel Fist. I think Crip also drafted this card, and it was noted that it was in the bottom of the 4th bucket, or like the top of the 4th bucket, but somewhere in the 4th bucket. It's still slightly overrated in the 4th bucket, guys. So I know people were thinking about it and were like, "Oh my god, it's so under-bucketed. It's gonna be running all over the place and dominating." People may take it. I know a lot of people really seem to like this card, and so it may actually even move up a bucket because people are taking it so much. But they're also going to be losing more games by taking it, and so you should not take it. And you should really not take it if it gets moved up a bucket. I'm not saying never take it. 111 in the 4th bucket is like doable. Like maybe you need a big card, right? It's a big card. It's a good big card too. So sometimes you just need the size, and you'll take it even if it's not like the best value. But this is like if it's offered pick 1 or 2 or the first 10 picks, you would almost never pick this card. It's like a curb, right? If at the end you're like, oh, I need a 3-drop, you're gonna take a 3-drop. You'll lose some value to take a 3-drop. Doesn't matter. Same here, right? If you need a big thing in the end, you need a big thing in the end. You'll lose some value to take this card. But you don't take it early, and just try to internalize why it's bad. I think it really helps your understanding of the game to figure out why this card is worse than a Charged Devilsaur. Okay, there's a lot of words on Burly Shovel Fist. Moving on, other relevant cards. Violet Spellword, 108, 4 mana, 1/6, Battlecry, gain +1 attack for each spell in your hand. Some people think it's insane, other people think it's just okay. We're in the it's just okay kind of category. We've mathed it out. It's better for some classes than others, but in no class is it like actually a premium card, because you're just not expected to get like a lot of spells in your hand, and you're also not expected to keep the coin around until turn 4 all that often, just for +1 attack. So yeah. So it's a Violet's spell sword. Yeah, a 2/6 for 4 mana is really bad. So you need more than 1 spell in your hand to justify it. You need to be a 3/6. And a 3/6 for 4 is very good. Or not very good. It's like correct, right? Because a Yeti's 4/5. So you need 2 spells for it to be correct. How often do you have 2 spells in your hand on turn 4? Less often, right? Than you would otherwise. But yeah. Okay. Traveling Healer, 4 mana, 3/2, Divine Shield, Battlecry, restore 3 health. It is a 107 as well. I mean, the 1 additional health compared to a Scarlet Crusader kind of helps. Restore 3 health is nice, but overall it's not like a dominant card or anything. It's just a very balanced neutral card. It's going to be fun and interesting to play. I like the design of the card, but it's not like enabling new and crazy strategies or anything. it does add a little bit more healing to the pool. And if you've been listening to podcasts before, there's more healing now than there was before. So that is a characteristic of the upcoming meta. Safeguard, 6 mana for 5 taunt mech, death rattle, summon a 0/5 vault safe with taunt. The vault safe doesn't do anything, it just has taunt. It's a 0/5 taunt, which makes this something like a 4/10 taunt, except it's not anywhere near as good as a 4/10 taunt because the second body has no attack and it's just preventing face damage. It's a 106, makes it pickable. You don't really want it in your deck, but if you're looking for a large thing to stop stuff, this is where you're at now. Safeguard is your new king of taunts. We used to have much better ones in the meta. Now we don't anymore. So Safeguard has taken that spot. I'm not really worried about this card or anything. It's just kind of an annoying card, and it's good enough that you'll see it. I don't think it's going to be over bucketed or under bucketed. It's going to be one of those like, does your deck want this much taunt, right? If you're playing a control deck or you have a lot of stuff that like you want to protect, Safeguard's a decent pick. If you are not in any of those categories, don't pick this card. It's just a really freaking understated 6-drop. But overall, it's a polarizing card, but it's normal value. Violet Warden, 6 mana for 6, spell damage +1. Hey, that's a card. Except this one also has taunt. So your Violet Ward is a 106. What card am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Archmage. What is Archmage? We'll find out. Archmage is a 92. So if you take an Archmage and you give it taunt, you get a 6 mana 4/7 taunt with spell damage. You get like a little over 10 points, like 14 points. That makes sense. Taunt on 7 health, pretty damn good. So Violet Warden, by the way, also, like, I know we look at it now and we're like, oh, it's a decent taunt. It's going to be one of your largest taunts available in the meta. So definitely, this is part of my mid-range taunts kind of deal, right? Where it's going to take out 2 guys. If you're the aggressor and your opponent's defending, and they can't, and you can't remove the Violet Warden, you're going to lose 2 guys. You should be prepared to do stuff like this, right? Like Sludge Belcher's back too. Like all sorts of things that make you lose 2 guys. But you're not going to have to lose like 3 or 4 or 5 or like all those ridiculous taunts that existed before. And like Safeguard even, right? Like it's a lot of health, but you're only going to lose like 2 guys. The rest is just going to hit 0/5s. So I like that kind of balancing from Blizzard. Okay. Faceless Rager, 104, 3 mana, 5/1. Battlecry, copy a friendly minion's health. So on curve, it's probably not going to copy a lot of health to make it terribly interesting. But off curve, it's going to be like a 3 mana 5/5. 3 mana 5/4. It's going to be good. Yeah. It's a good design. It's interesting. You want to be on the board for it to get the most value, but it's kind of a late game card for 3 mana. And late game cards for 3 mana that has no initiative and just like is a dude is like, it just has an upper limit of how good it can be and how helpful it can be, right? Remember, there's so many cards that in the late game just become 0 mana. And those cards were never like terribly good. So this one doesn't even become 0 mana. It's still 3 mana. Alright. Exotic Mount Seller is 102. We're getting really close to the average card Blizzard prints now. 7 mana, 5/8, so understated. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random 3-cost beast. Random 3-cost beasts aren't terribly great or anything, so it's just kind of what it is. It's functional, right? If you have, it doesn't even matter if you have a lot of spells. It's just more like if you go late enough for this card to do anything. Next we have, this is 101, Sunreaver Spy, 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry. If you control a secret, gain +1/+1. Terrible design. I don't know. Like, Blizzard, come on, it's 5 years into the game. You should know not to make cards like this. It's not that good, right? Like, we don't rate it high or anything, but if you are a paladin and you secret into this guy, It's ridiculous, powerful tempo. If you're a hunter and you coin a secret that doesn't pop into this guy, amazing, right? Like, this is... shouldn't be a thing, but is a thing. Arcane Servant, 2 mana, 2/3 elemental. Remember, Ungoro rotated out, so there's not a lot of elemental stuff left in probably not even in standard, but definitely not in the arena meta, because we did the math on that. So it's not doing too much here. Hench Clan Sneak, 3 mana, 3/3 stealth. Okay, different take on a Panther. Fine, 100 points. Next, Dalaran Librarian, 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry, silence adjacent minions. This will be a fun card. It'll silence frozen stuff, right? It will also potentially silence things with downside. It's a little awkward to play, but you really generally don't care about silencing 1-drops, and you probably won't have 1-drops. And later on, you're probably playing with another minion, so you would have to have 2 minions you don't want to silence in order for the downside to really be a downside. So overall, I think we have it as like a normal like ability, like not particularly positive or negative. Okay, recurring villain is 96. Recurring villain 3/6. Death rattle of this minion has 4 or more attack. Resummon it. 5 mana 3/6s are really bad, but if you can get it to buff it, it becomes really good. So you got to have the synergies there. This is a very high synergy card. To be safe, you actually want to buff it in hand, and MSG is back. So there's some interesting potentials here for comboing with paladins and stuff. Like, it is a 96. You generally don't want it in your deck, but let's see what it is in paladin. Oh, wow. Is it really that high in Paladin? It's 105 in Paladin. Okay, so not that high, but it got like 10 points in Paladin, right? To show you the idea that being able to buff its attack does make it a lot more usable. All right. We're almost to the end of the relevant neutral cards. Big Bad Archmage, 95. I know some people think Big Bad Archmage is like insanely good, but it's a 10 mana card that doesn't do anything the turn you play it. So it cannot possibly be very good. It's a 95. It's a little tiny bit below the average card that exists. Definitely below the average card in your deck. Why? Because by 10 mana, most of your games are already determined. So you don't care what cards you have left in your hand at 10 mana for way, like a very high percentage of your games. Like, it's not going to save your game, and it's not going to help you win. Of the games that are still in contention at 10 mana, though, that's a pretty damn good card, right? 6/6, you immediately get something so that this 10 mana is worth it tempo-wise. And then if it lives and at 6 health, it has a good chance of living if you're like even fighting for the board. It's going to just keep summoning more and more ridiculous stuff. So it's really a matter of how often are you on turn 10 with the board and you haven't locked it down yet. Because even if you're like on turn 10 and you're still playing for it, but you don't have the board, this card's not very good. It's just like a normal 10 mana kind of card. So its upside, it has very limited applicability in situations, even though when you do get it to apply in the right situation, it's insane. Like, it's a game-winning card. If you need a win condition in a deck and you have the board and you're going to go to turn 10, that's a pretty good card. If you're not that kind of deck, don't take it. All right. Finally, all the way down here at 90. This is the last card we're talking about. This is the last card in the relevant set. It's Tunnel Blaster. Tunnel Blaster is a 7 mana 3/7 taunt. Death rattle, deal 3 damage to all minions. So it is a bomb. But we rate it worse than a bomb because it is 2 mana more for 3 more taunt health. That's not what you want. It does deal 3 damage to all minions. So it is able to clear more stuff and force the trade. But it also has higher taunt to begin with. So it's forcing a hit anyway on more things. Like, it's mathed out. And it's just not as good at defending as an Abomination is. It's pickable. 90 is not unpickable. Like, if you're a very control-y kind of deck, this could be very good, right? Because it's not just a deal damage to all minions. You have to deal damage to all minions, and if your opponent like stalls you, like doesn't hit in, you have to then have stuff to do with your mana so that you don't have to put stuff out on the board, right? Or you have to have like really high health things that you don't even care if it gets damaged. So this is not for like a mid-range deck. Definitely, obviously not for an aggro deck. But if you're a control deck, it's gonna be worth a lot more than 90. Just overall, applicability limited. Okay. That's it for the rest of the relevant cards. I think Blizzard did a decent job with the relevant cards of keeping things interesting, and making it pretty balanced. This is the balance zone, right? These are the limited cards that you like to see, and I'm glad that Blizzard took some chances here, did some new stuff. A lot of the new stuff has to do with RNG, which is a little less good for the new stuff, but it'll at least keep things interesting. Overall, with the exception of that secret card, the freaking Sunreaver Spy. Sunreaver Spy is not even good. Like, even in Paladin, Sunreaver Spy is not good because you have to draw it on the exact right turn, right? Yeah, it's a 107 in freaking Paladin. Like, it's not even good in Paladin. Like, the chances you'll actually get a secret into it is so low. But whenever people do, they're going to win the game, and that's really annoying. So besides that card, everything else has, I think, pretty good design, and yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to playing with these. It'll definitely keep things interesting in the arena. After this, we are going to go into the irrelevant cards. I was thinking of a nice way to say it. Deep cuts. That's right. We're calling it deep cuts. Deep cuts in neutral are the more irrelevant cards, the very heavy synergy kind of like cards, and also the legendaries, which we haven't covered yet. So yeah, once again, if you like what you're hearing, you like the analysis, check out our YouTube, youtube.com/gritandgoat. Check out our stream, twitch.tv/gritandgoat. Our podcast, which is the Lightforge. Yeah, we have all sorts of analysis, and we have 12-win run videos, and we play the arena all the time. It's a good time. Until the next video, yeah, we'll see you in the next video. This is ADWCTA